Belmont Stakes isn't just about who is the most talented horse. At Saratoga, it's about who fits the mile-and-a-quarter distance. And this video is about the profile that this track rewards. To find that profile, I went back 36 years and I studied, get this, not the Belmont winners, but the Travers winners, because the Travers is this track and this distance. There are 7 factors that I really want to share with you that shape how a 10 furlong race is won right here at Saratoga. By understanding these factors, you're going to have a disciplined way to evaluate the 2026 Belmont field and hopefully find that winner. I'm Laura from Trifecta and a little bit extra. And if you're new here, I provide horse racing education and race insights. Let's start with the track itself. Now, beginning with that race architecture, because the shape of the track, the shape of the race, all key in seeing who best fits this race. The dirt track at Saratoga is a mile and an eighth. That means to run the mile and a quarter, they're going to start at the top of the stretch. It's really important. It gives the horses time to get into position before they hit that first turn. Now, outside posts, they are not automatically doomed, but early positioning, that matters. Horses on the outside, they don't want to be caught wide. Ground loss matters here. If a horse is caught 3 to 4 wide going into that first turn, they are running further than a horse on the inside. That's really important because this race is already a long distance. That means we're going to look at post positions. Now, going back to the last 36 years of the Travers, 23 winners, that's nearly 2/3, came from post 4 through 7. Outside posts, they don't really fare well. Only 3 winners from post 9 and above, and that's out of 16 races that had at least 9 runners. Saratoga is not oversized like the traditional Belmont Park at a mile and a half. It's also not compact like Churchill Downs at a mile. Why does that matter? The proportion changes how momentum develops here. By the time they reach that second turn, this race is shifting from speed to stamina and positioning, because that's where the race really tightens. You have those leaders that are kind of trailing off in their speed, and you have the closers beginning their momentum, and the gap shrinks. But if you're too far back, you've got a lot of work to do because the stretch here may not be your friend. The stretch at Saratoga, 1,144 feet. Now, that is less than Churchill Downs at 1,234 feet, but more than what we saw for Laurel at the Preakness. Well, why does this matter? A longer stretch provides that long runway for closers to build momentum. So, factor 2 is going to be, can the horse get into that striking distance before they enter the final turn? We're going to make sure they're not too far back at the half call. Looking back over the last 36 years from the Travers, that sweet spot tends to be no more than 3 lengths off the leader at the half call. 23, nearly 2/3 of the winners were in that sweet spot. Now, 8 horses did win over 3, but less than 6 lengths off the leader at the half call, but only 2 were deep closers. Even Sovereignty, who was way off the pace in his prior races, much more forwardly placed in the Belmont last year. One other thing to note, here at Saratoga, this distance, those need to lead types, they may be vulnerable. Now, it's not about getting to the lead. It's about how the horse had to do it. If a horse has to fight for that position, face pressure, doesn't really have the stamina to carry them through, this track will expose them. Looking back over those 36 years, only 3 horses won the Travers going gate to wire. Corporate Report in 1991, Arrogate in 2016, West Coast in 2017. Now, once a horse is at that striking distance, factor 3 becomes critical. Who actually has the energy to strike? At a mile and a quarter, this race isn't about who can make a move. Oh no. It's about who can sustain one. The horses that win these races, they have notes that say things like rallying, driving through the wire, determined, drawing off. We want to look for a horse that keeps responding late, one that just doesn't flatten when they're challenged, because that late resilience matters. 18 of the last 36 Travers, they were decided by less than a length. 6 by a nose, 5 by a neck, 2 by a head. At this distance, at Saratoga, the difference is often in inches. So when you evaluate this year's Belmont contenders, don't just ask who can make a move. Ask who keeps fighting all the way through the wire. Look at those notes from prior races. See who's got that sustained energy in them. Now, if you're appreciating race insights just like this, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for me, please. This is what this channel is all about. And by liking and subscribing, you're telling YouTube to show this video to more people just like yourself. And if you want more race insights and news and behind the scenes looks, go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter right here, subscribe.trifectaandextra.com, or use this QR code. And if you subscribe, just know this, I'm going to immediately send you an email. You have to open it. You have to hit the button in the middle that says confirm my email in order to get on that list. Sometimes that email gets hidden, so go and find it where old emails go to die. So once we know where a horse needs to be, how it needs to finish, that next question becomes simple. Does the horse have the foundation to do it at the 10 furlongs? Factor 4 is distance foundation. To run this race, the horse must be built for stamina and distance, meaning they've been tested at the longer distances and finished first or second in those races. Now, the Travers is run later in the summer, so horses naturally have more time to build that foundation than they do heading into the Belmont. But even so, that long-term pattern is clear. When I looked at 36 years of 10 furlong races right here at Saratoga, all but two winners had already run at least a mile and an eighth. And among those who had long distance races, all but one finished first or second in that race. In other words, the horses that win this distance here, they don't just discover stamina on the day. They've already shown it. Now, the two exceptions that I mentioned, one was Arrogate, who set a Travers record, and the other was Golden Ticket, who won in a dead heat. But even a horse with the right foundation can be undone by timing. 10 furlongs just doesn't test stamina, it tests conditioning. And the spacing between a horse's last race and this one often plays a bigger role than most people realize. Factor 5 speaks to that spacing. Out of 30 runnings of the Belmont, and I'm going to use the Belmont here, not the Travers. I'm going to go back to 1995, but I'm tossing out 2020 when the whole world was upside down. What I found was this. Only 7 races had a horse that did not have a prior race in May. And none of those horses won. None. The best was 2023 when Forte came in second to Arcangelo. Now let's talk about who's got that better prep race. Kentucky Derby or Oaks, Preakness or the undercard, Peter Pan or some other race. 14 winners of the 30 past runnings came from the Kentucky Derby or Oaks. That's nearly half. 10 of the 30 winners came from the Preakness or the undercard. But once you eliminate those Triple Crown winners, you got to go back to 2008 to find one, so it's less common. 4 came from the Peter Pan, 2 other races. 10 furlongs at Saratoga, you need the right foundation. You need the right timing. You need to be arriving in peak condition. But there's one more layer. This track has its own personality, a distinctive surface and configuration. And over time, horses that have already run at Saratoga, they can have an advantage. So factor 6, Saratoga Experience. Looking at the last 2 runnings of the Belmont at Saratoga, both winners, Sovereignty and Dornick, had that prior Saratoga experience. And using the Travers, 23 of the past 36 winners had Saratoga prior experience. So you find the right horse that has the right foundation and the right form, but someone still needs to execute that plan. At a mile and a quarter, every decision matters. When to secure position, when to ask for more, when to wait. Factor 7 is the jockey. Having a top jockey here at Saratoga can make all the difference in the world. So we're going to go back to the summer standings and see, is the jockey in the top 10? Now let's test the 7 factors in the prior 2 editions of the Belmont at Saratoga. Starting with 2024, Dornick wins high odds. Here's how Dornick fit into the factors. He was the only horse that checked off all the boxes. And I wish I had found these factors at the time. You could go back to my 2024 Belmont video. Wasn't even a horse I talked about. He had an ideal post position to start. At the half call, he was only a half a length from the leader. Prior races, he had shown he could get into that striking distance. Notes say he ended gamely, so he had full of energy. His foundation said he had those prior long distance races and a win. He prepped in the Kentucky Derby, had prior Saratoga experience, and his jockey was Luis Saez, who is top in the summer of 2023 Saratoga standings. Now on to 2025, a different year. One of the favorites, Sovereignty, wins. Now, Sovereignty was certainly a horse that I really liked. He wasn't in post positions 4 through 7, but he wasn't drawn to the outside. I was worried that he was going to be coming way off the pace like he did in his prior races. But get this, he was much more forwardly placed than those prior races. He was only a length and a quarter off of the leader at the half call. Now, I want you to remember that because really good jockeys here at Saratoga, they know where to get their horses into position. He had always shown late speed. He won the Kentucky Derby, so we knew he had the stamina for this distance. He had prior to Saratoga experience and Junior Alvarado, who was a top jockey in the 2024 summer standings. Two different races, both winners aligning to these foundational factors. Now, based on who's projected to be in the 2026 Belmont, who really aligns to the factors? Well, at the filming of this video, I only have a projected field. I also don't have all jockeys finalized, and we certainly don't know post positions. And as we discussed, post positions can influence how the race unfolds. So, what I'm going to do is just a preview. Once those posts are drawn, jockeys are finalized, I'm going to refine the picture with a final video evaluating all the runners. So make sure you come back. But for this preview, when you stack these contenders against each other, nobody is perfect. If Renegade enters, he checks nearly every structural box: foundation, timing, stamina, profile, class. The one question is going to be running style, like Sovereignty. He tends to come from further back. At a mile and a quarter at Saratoga, positioning has historically mattered. Now, if he's within striking range at the half call, he is dangerous. Commandment and Golden Tempo both stack up well numerically. On paper, they belong, but positioning and prior Saratoga experience are two factors that they're missing. Chief Wallaby fits the structural profile in many areas, but he hasn't yet finished first or second at a mile and an eighth or longer. And historically, that longer distance proof has mattered. 10 furlongs tends to reward horses that have already shown that they can thrive at 9. Emerging market checks nearly every measurable box, but there is no clear evidence of driving or rallying late in his running lines. And he hasn't raced at Saratoga, but don't eliminate him because remember this, he's only coming in with a foundation of 2 prior races plus the Kentucky Derby. Growth Equity has talent, but hasn't faced the class level typically required by a horse that wins here. So when you step back and you look at this projected group, you can already see where the strengths and where the vulnerabilities are. But this is only a preview. That post draw is going to change the shape of the race. And when we know the final field, we're going to be able to measure which horses really align with all 7 factors and which ones are going to face some obstacles. So make sure you come back and hit subscribe. Don't miss out on that evaluation. I want you all to find your Belmont winner and sashay away with your money. Until next time, cheers.